Creators are helping PlayStation kill physical games. We've all seen this. We've talked about one of them at least, a couple of them.
Oh god.
Mad Curious Gamer, for example. It's definitely a problem that we're experiencing. So let's get into this.
There are people out there, or certain individuals with YouTube channels to be more specific, who are, in my opinion, helping PlayStation to kill physical games. What I find interesting.
Oh god.
Anybody that says, well, yeah, I support physical, but I'm still buying GTA, you're helping kill physical games. Anybody that says, I'm going to keep playing regardless because most sales are digital anyway, you're killing physical games. All of y'all don't care about the concept of ownership. If you are a creator in any way, shape, or form, and you are not actively saying, fuck it, I refuse to buy GTA 6, you're part of the problem.
Interesting, though, is that all three of the uploaders that I'm covering today would, without a moment's hesitation, tell you they are firmly on your side in this entire physical media debate. Jason Schreier, Alannah Pearce, and David Jaffe have all put out videos in the last few days about the end of PlayStation discs.
And every single one of them are industry shills. Alannah Pearce, Jason Schreier, and David Jaffe are all industry shills. If you listen to any of these motherfuckers who take what they say seriously, may God have mercy on your soul. Look at this fucking... Has ever a face of a dude who thinks he can review video games look so apt?
And all three present themselves as outsiders, independent voices, standing apart from the regular YouTube gaming ecosystem, simply reporting the facts as they see them, free of any agenda whatsoever. Yet, the deeper I looked into each of their backgrounds this week, the less comfortable I became with how confidently all three...
And you're part of the problem, and this is why I don't like you that much, but it's okay. What were we saying, hun?
Oh, no, I found the game. I sent it to you.
Oh, you found the game? Awesome. You'll have to show me later. The fact that you were buying GTA 6 in a world where they're not giving you the actual ownership of GTA 6 is the problem. You are a consumer. You are a slop eater. Eat your GTA 6 slop, piggy.
Of them are telling us that the fight against PlayStation and to save
I got into so many arguments today over this exact thing. It was just the fact, like, there are people out there being like, oh, let's all boycott Sony for 1 week and now show them. No, it's not going to show them. First of all, subscriptions are monthly or annual. A 1 week boycott is not going to do anything. Like,
it's no different
really
than people that were like, oh, George
just
Floyd.
Walk away.
Sorry, no, go on. I thought you were done. Continue. Oh, I think you might need to restart your browser. Sorry, you're lagging. Yeah, so change browsers and come back. But no, like the people that are doing.
I think I'm okay now, but.
All right, perfect. The people that are doing like the 1 week boycott of Sony.
Do I look okay now? Yeah.
Are the same that are doing
stupid.
Change their profile picture when George Floyd was murdered for a day because that'll stop police brutality. Yeah, bullshit.
I know.
Media has already finished. All three have genuine, deep, and in some cases current, ongoing ties to the games industry and specifically to Sony itself. One of them worked directly inside a Sony first-party studio for years and, by her own recent admission, is reportedly still bound by Sony's own communications guidelines to this very day. Another one built one of PlayStation's single most important franchises, God of War, from scratch, and is, by his own recent admission, still receiving personal gifts from that same studio decades later. And the third, Schreier, the games journalist, depends entirely...
Not just personal gifts, but if my suspicions are correct, he is still receiving royalties, which is why he is being very coy. Yeah, he is still receiving royalties, which is why Jaffe is being very coy. He'll say shit about God of War LaFay, but he won't actually say anything about the debt to physical media because he still gets his cut.
Professionally on maintaining a stream of insider access to companies exactly like Sony in order to keep his career functioning at all. All three used that access and that history this week not to properly inform their audiences about the PlayStation situation, but, in my opinion, to lecture us, speaking in complete and unwavering absolutes about a decision that isn't actually finished yet, using stats that fall apart the moment you look at them properly. So today we're going to go through exactly who all of these three people are, why each of them is already a controversial figure in gaming discourse in their own right, what specifically they said, and how, whether they intend to or not, all three are functionally helping PlayStation kill physical media by convincing millions of people the fight is already over before it's even close to being decided.
And the thing is, regardless, like, let's say the fight is over. Let's say that nothing can be done and Sony's decision will not change. Doesn't matter. It does not matter. It doesn't mean, oh, we lost, we'll buy the digital slop anyway. Fuck you. If you're an American, if you are an American and you care about the concept of ownership, this is not just about video games. This isn't just about whether or not, oh, we lost the fight, they're going to make the decision anyway. It's about the fact that you should own what you pay for. Not own a fucking license to it. You should own what you pay for. And if you don't own what you pay for, why the fuck did you pay for it? Anybody who is willing to do digital only for a license and just say, like, oh, that's okay, fuck you. You are A-okay with an oppressive regime taking away the very concept of you giving your money for the idea of owning something. It is yours. It cannot be taken away. It is your private property.
I am Lady Decade, and if you're tired of being lectured by people who talk to you like you're incapable of drawing your own conclusions, then hit that subscribe button and let's get into exactly who Jason Schreier, Alannah Pearce, and David Jaffe are, and everything they got wrong about PlayStation trying to kill physical media. PlayStation's current push to imprison players within their vile and predatory digital-only ecosystem is quite frankly disgusting, and no matter how many so-called insiders attempt to tell us that there's nothing we can do about it, it's not something I will ever, in a million years, put up with. Thankfully, not all digital platforms are equal, and others, such as Steam, for example, offer up far more freedom, autonomy, and fairness to players. For example, you can get the Double Helix Strider game for just $1, Sword Art Online Fatal Bullet for $4, the entire Lego Batman trilogy for $4, Final Fantasy VII Cool Original Flavor for just $5, or how about the amazing Link's Awakening inspired Mina the Hollower for just $15. Or if you're one of those who
it was supposed to, we knew that was never going to be the case. Anybody worth their salt on the internet saw through that blockchain bullshit immediately.
Fancies something a bit more modern, how about 47% off Resident Evil Requiem, or money off Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced? Use my links below to get big money off literally thousands of games. With PC gaming, you're not trapped in Sony's awful ecosystem either, as PC gaming has multiple storefronts and an abundance of more options. Each purchase supports this channel directly and my fight against the attempted erasure of customer choice. Or
you know, the console gremlins are when she says the fact that PC offers more choice, they are seething. They refuse to admit it. They refuse to admit that PC gaming undisputedly has more choice. It is not even, it cannot be questioned. It is a verifiable fact.
If you'd like to support me in a more personal way, access my behind-the-scenes cosplay library and more by backing my show on Patreon. Happy shopping, and I hope you enjoy this episode. Before we get into any of these three individuals, I think it's worth grounding this whole conversation in what Sony actually announced, because all three of these videos take Sony's own framing almost entirely at face value.
Ezra, you were missing the point with a dumbass comment like this. It's not about whether something is physical or digital. It's about whether you own the thing, and PC gaming does offer you ownership. It's not a license. When you go to GOG and you purchase a game, you are purchasing the .exe file that you own and cannot under any circumstances be taken away from you. It is not about physical. It is about ownership. Use your brain. I know you can do it.
Sony's official statement described the move as a natural direction for Sony Interactive Entertainment to adapt to consumer trends, as the general preference for digital media significantly outpaces physical discs. That's the sentence all three of these creators build their videos around, more or less. And on the surface, the underlying numbers do genuinely support part of that claim. For example, according to Sony's own corporate reporting,
it should matter to you because this is a dumbass argument. You can lease a physical item. If you're leasing the physical item, you still don't fucking own it. This isn't about whether it's physical or digital. If you think it is, you're a small-minded pissant. The idea is whether you own the thing. If I lease something, if I rent my apartment, doesn't matter the fact that this apartment's physically here. I don't own it. I rent. It is not, I do not own the thing that I'm paying money for. The idea is that you need to own what you pay for, digital or physical.
I think like the keep in mind, and maybe Asura has not really thought about this. Okay, like you're trading convenience of just clicking something, and because you're trading for that convenience, you're trading the following. You're trading your privacy. You're trading your biometrics, because PlayStation is going to be requiring biometrics. I'm sure if they could in the US, they're already required in the UK, right? Yeah, you're giving out your personal information. So, because they will get hacked, because they have, the
Sony gets hacked once every 6 months. Like,
yeah, they will get hacked. And then if you think that, oh, I'm just going to have the game, forever. No, you're not, because Sony has already pulled the games and movies that people paid for, and they don't give a shit anymore. So when you come out and you say, I don't care if it's physical or not, I think you're missing the entire point, which
it's not even about missing the point. It's about being like saying things like, oh, well, I do support physical, but I really want GTA 6 so bad that I'm going to throw away all my principles, all my ethics, all my morals, all my philosophical standings, everything that you just said about throwing out all of the objectively far worse negatives just to have the dopamine rush of playing GTA 6 like a good little piggy.
And then Stop Killing Games is really pushing to kind of preserve games to make sure that they don't actually die off. So kudos to them in that movement, which I think is really important. Asura says, I'm not asking for digital. I accepted it, but I don't like it. But I like owning physical copies on my shelf.
But you are still going to buy GTA 6. You're still going to shell out the $70 to $100 to Rockstar for them to piss in your mouth and say it's water.
And if you're wondering why we're what's the right term? I don't know why we're disappointed with people buying GTA 6 is because Sony will use that as an excuse to kill all physical media forever, right? They will say that, and they'll say like, look, there was an uproar. It was just a couple loud people saying, hey, don't do this to physical games. But look at the amount of people that came out and bought GTA 6. And they're going to use people like you who buy GTA 6 to kill gaming, period.
Also, TIE Fighter, this is a terrible attempt at a gotcha. You say, so you're an idiot for renting because you don't own that property. No, when I have the capital to own property, I will happily own property. It's very different not having the capital to own property at the time, so you will eventually move up to that, versus a digital game costing the exact same as a physical game where you have an equal playing field, and then people can make the consumer choice one way or the other. Yeah. You can't equate the concept of renting to owning property when there's a very different cost and barrier to entry via cost.
Yeah, it is definitely. But so, like, you can, I mean, like, the only way to actually take a stand is don't buy GTA 6. Just walk away from Sony completely. And this is the entire discussion I've been having with people online. I think it was like yesterday and today, where people are like basically giving up. Don't be like them. Don't give up. Just walk away from Sony, tell Sony fuck you, and then buy from folks that actually have physical media, not trying to destroy gaming.
Yeah, games are advertised as a product. Renting a truck is not the same as buying a video game. Correct.
Yeah,
as far as your PS3 physical collection, it is still playable because you can still, first of all, none of those games are getting updated anymore. So if you've already got those games, got those updates, you can play them. And even if you can't get the updates anymore, you still have what is on the disc, and it is yours. It can't be taken away from you.
Look, if you really want to buy GTA 6, buy it from GOG when it comes out, because at that point you'll own the game, right?
Maybe.
But also, like, you don't have to. I mean, I'm sure they'll have something with has to do with the online version and paying extra money, but you don't have to pay GTA 6. You do not have to pay GTA 6. There's plenty of other fucking games you can play.
And this is also a dumbass argument. If everyone on our aisle don't buy GTA 6, that won't change anything. Whether it changes anything is irrelevant. The point is about the moral and philosophical consistency. By that logic, in a world where slavery is completely societally normal, let's say we live in a culture where slavery is completely societally acceptable. Would that make it morally okay just because it's societally acceptable? The obvious answer is no. So you can't sit here and say, like, oh, well, just because everyone else is doing it, we won't make a dent. It won't change anything. Whether it changes anything is irrelevant. I expect people to have actual moral standards. And one of the bare minimum moral standards should be owning what you pay for. If you don't even have a concept of ownership, you're not fit to be an American. Get fucking deported.
Yeah, or a sense of privacy. Because you know that PlayStation is one of the major guilty actors who is trying to destroy privacy, who is trying to censor everybody. So, like, you have to pick a side here, right? And clearly you're choosing wrong.
Physical software made up just 3% of PlayStation's total revenue in 2024, down from 6% in 2020. Digital sales made up roughly 80% of all full game software sold in the most recent fiscal year, up from a mere 13% back in 2013. Circana analyst Matt Piscatella has also shown that US consumer spending on physical games has collapsed from a peak of $11.5 billion in 2009 to just $1.6 billion over the most recent 12-month period.
And again, you are failing to understand the argument. That's why I said a million times, this is not just about video games. You say you have no moral concerns when it comes to entertainment. It is not about entertainment. This is about the concept of ownership, which applies to everything. You don't get to a la carte what ownership means. Ownership means if you buy the thing to own, then that is your own private property, and it cannot be taken from you legally from any third party, whether it be another individual, whether it be a corporation, whether it be a government. The idea of, oh, it's entertainment, so it's different, is bananas. It doesn't make sense under any sort of logical scrutiny. So you can respectfully disagree all you want. You are objectively wrong.
The real numbers, and I'm not here to pretend that they don't exist, but in none of these uploads was any attempt made to actually interrogate the data. That's the real problem, because all three of those headline numbers can be read completely differently once you understand how they're actually calculated. Take that 3% physical revenue figure first. Analyst Daniel Ahmed, who tracks Sony's financials closely for Nico Partners, pointed out on X that this number is fundamentally misleading because Sony's accounting only recognizes full revenue from first-party disc sales, while third-party physical games are counted purely as royalty income, a tiny fraction of the retail price. When you look at actual units sold rather than the revenue booked under that accounting method, physical discs make up 24% of all PlayStation games sales in 2024, roughly 73 million physical copies sold worldwide in a single year. That is an enormous gap between 3% of revenue and 24% of units sold. And it's the difference between a business that's genuinely dying and a business that Sony's own accounting simply chooses not to credit properly.
And they choose not to credit. They choose to give you these flimsy bullshit numbers because most people will just see, oh, well, it only made up 3%. Yeah, it makes sense to get rid of it. Why would you do the cost of manufacturing discs and whatnot if it's only accounting, and not only discs, but the cases within them, there used to be instruction booklets. Now it's just little single page ads. The point is,
there's no
it's only accounting for 3% of the sales, except for it's not only accounting for 3% of the sales. They gave you those bogus numbers because it's when you look at the top games played on PSN, Most of them are free-to-play games with microtransactions. There was never a physical game to purchase to begin with. You don't buy Fortnite physically. It was already digital only. That's the thing that's making the most money on PlayStation, and it's making money via microtransactions.
Yeah.
To Jaffe's credit, he does acknowledge the 73 million physical copies, but brings up that they are units shipped rather than necessarily sold through to customers. But what he fails to mention, however, is that the comparison is still deeply misleading because a huge proportion of digital sales come from cheaper indie games, discounted back catalogue titles, and low-cost releases. Physical shipments, by contrast, are far more heavily concentrated around major full-price games. So simply comparing the number of digital transactions with the number of discs shipped tells us very little about how many customers are actually choosing digital over physical when buying the same kind of $70 release.
By the way, that also does not account when Sony is doing their own internal tracking for like, oh, this game sold, let's say, 10 million physical copies. That doesn't account for the idea that, all right, maybe you buy a game, you play it, or maybe you play it and don't like it, or maybe you play it, you like it. Either way, you finish the game, you sell at the GameStop, someone goes into GameStop, they buy it used. Sony's not tracking the physical sales that are being done used from third-party shops. So physical game sales are obviously actually far higher. Like, even though GameStop said themselves that physical sales account for less than 20% of their total business, that is still 20% of physical sales that is not being tracked by Sony or Microsoft or Nintendo, etc.
The 80% digital full game sales figure has the same problem hiding inside it. Sony's own fiscal year 2024 report shows that of the 303.3 million full games sold.
Oh, how little you know me, considering I've never seen your face before and it's your name before, and it seems like you are not familiar with my channel. I have not played. I have not bought a GTA game since the PS2. I didn't like GTA 4 or GTA 5. Why, if I didn't like 4 or 5, why would I then buy 6 once it's miraculously available on PC?
Yeah.
Like, even when GTA 6 comes to PC, I'm not buying it because I didn't like 4 and 5. I've not liked GTA since the PS2 era. So no, I will not be there day one. I won't be there day ever because I don't like modern GTA.
That year, only 9.5%, around 28.9 million, were actually first-party titles. The overwhelming majority of that 80% digital figure is made up of third-party software, indie titles, and games that frequently never had a meaningful physical release to begin with, alongside DLC and add-on content, which alone accounted for 29% of PlayStation's entire gaming revenue that year, nearly 10 times physical software's contribution. Bundling all of that together into one digital dominance statistic.
Whether I'm the exception or not, fair enough. I might be the exception, but you said you'll be there day one. I'm giving you ardent proof that I will not be there day one or day any. There are, I'm sure, people are going to buy it when it comes to PC. That, again, they can make that choice. The point is they have the freedom of choice to do so. PlayStation is taking away that choice. That's what matters at the end of the day.
Massively inflates the picture because you're comparing physical discs against a category that includes things that discs were never realistically competing against in the first place. And the Piscatella data that Schreier and Pearce both used works the same way. Yes, US consumer spending on physical games fell from $11.6 billion in 2008 to roughly $1.5 billion in 2025. And yes, that's a genuinely dramatic decline. But Piscatella's own reporting also shows that decline has been slowing sharply, down 28% in 2024 versus only 11% in 2025, and that Nintendo Switch 2 physical sales actually pushed total US physical spending up year on year for the first time since 2009, something none of these three videos mentioned either. A slowing decline that's brief.
Wait. So none of those three videos by Alannah Pearce, David Jaffe, or Jason Schreier mentioned about physical sales when it comes to accounting for pushing additional PlayStation IPs. It's almost like they're actually shills who are, if not paid by the industry, at least been given goodie bags by the industry or have something at stake within the industry so they can maintain their access or whatnot to continue playing alongside the party lines. This is no different than Ben Shapiro getting out there and shilling for Israel because, you know, he's a fucking Jew and he probably gets a lot of money from AIPAC if I had to guess. It is literally just the gaming version of fucking big donors in politics.
Reversed is a genuinely different story than physical media died of natural causes, which is much closer to how Jason Schreier frames it. Of course, none of this means physical media isn't shrinking. It clearly is, but every single one of these headline numbers has a far more complicated story sitting directly underneath it, one that either massively understates how much physical media Sony is actually still selling, or blends categories together in ways that make the decline look far more total and inevitable than the underlying data actually supports.
Sev, we were just recently at the Southeast Game Exchange. That we had a homeboy in our chat in the chat earlier. Hopefully he's still here. That came up to our booth. There were several people that came up to our booths. When I buy physical media in this modern day and age, I almost exclusively buy it through third parties used, whether it be at conventions, whether it be at used game stores, whether it be at fucking flea markets or whatnot. Shady Blaze, thank you. You are still here. Shady Blaze came up to us at the Southeast Game Exchange, and he pulled out a stack of video games that he bought on the show floor. Yes, physical. We agree. I don't think anybody's making the argument that physical sales aren't going down. They obviously are. However, there is no metric, no way to count third-party physical sales for video games at, say, conventions or, again, vintage stock or your local game store or whatnot. So when you say that the physical is going away, it also just means that it could mean that direct-to-consumer physical games from the companies has slowed down. Now, because I still go to my local game store and buy physical games. It's just always used games that are oftentimes classics that I want to buy.
Yeah, I usually go around looking for used games. I mean, I walked the floor a bunch trying to find this ham title game that I could not find, but I was looking, because there's certain games I want to make sure that I can get. That's usually what I look for.
Well, and Evan says of convenience is king. It's also not only a matter of convenience. Now, you're not wrong, mind you. You're right. Convenience is king. But it's also a matter of the vast majority of people, if I had to wager a guess, don't know when they buy something digital that they're actually only buying a license to it. They're not buying the thing. How many people were shocked when Sony removed the 500 titles that they had purchased? They didn't know that could even happen. Why? Because they don't realize they're buying a license, not buying the thing itself.
Yep. That happened right after GTA went for sale.
Schreier, Pearce, and Jaffe all cite versions of the same data sets, and none of them pause once to ask what's actually being counted, what's being left out, or why Sony's own accounting might have an incentive to make physical look smaller than it really is. So now you've all had a taste of how these people are using...
What was that, babe?
No, I said, of course.
Yeah, obviously, if Sony can get rid of the third-party market, which is what I buy many of my games on, I assume you do as well, Sevi. If they can get rid of that, then they just assume customers will buy direct to them. There will be some that do. Absolutely. There will be people that be like, oh, well, I can't get it at GameStop anymore. I'll buy directly from Sony. But that's not going to be everyone. Like not everybody's been trained to do that. And frankly, the era that we live in, when you see news headline after news headline every day about things like digital ID, about things like personal data breaches, I would say that Sony has very much underestimated how much people care about the concept of ownership, about buying physical, about not putting your information into certain amounts of things that can get hacked or get breached. Now, do enough people care to make a dent? I don't know. Admittedly, probably not. But the fact of the matter is that number of people is growing every day.
Yep. Within says wheat. Wheat something says I always assumed you work like Steam, that you could still play your downloads offline. Some games you cannot play offline, particularly if they're from Sony. And some games that you launch on Steam then have another launcher that have nothing to do with Steam.
How about you tell them about the travesty? How about you tell them about the travesty of the awesome present you bought for me that I now likely don't get to use?
Yeah. So Marvel, what's the name?
Marvel
Token,
Tokon Battle.
but Token. Yeah, Marvel Token Battle now launches through Sony. So if you
Even
buy
if
it
you
on
buy it on
Steam,
Steam.
yeah, you buy it on Steam, it'll have a launcher. Go to the Sony account. You have to have a PSP account. So you have to have a Sony account
PSN.
that you have to, yeah, you have to have an account that you have to log into and then connect to Sony in order to be able to play. So again,
Marvel Tokon Battle, even if you buy it at Steam, download it through Steam, you still have to log in through your Sony PSN account, and the game is not playable offline. Even just the regular arcade mode where you fight computer-controlled characters is not playable offline. Sevi gifted me the game before it was even out, because in Steam you can pre-order and whatnot. Sevi gifted me Marvel Tokon Battle, and now it is come like what, probably a month ago, baby.
Yeah, wasted fucking $100, dude.
And now I likely will not be able to play the game because I don't have a PSN account, for one. Secondly, I have no option to play it offline because it runs through the anti-cheat, which is incompatible with Linux. Steam OS operates on Linux. Anti-cheat's incompatible with Linux. So the game runs like dog shit. Like the Marvel Tokon Battle, PlayStation and Sony literally fucked Steam with that game, and a gift that my lovely, amazing girlfriend bought me because she knew how badly I wanted that game is likely going to be effectively unplayable unless these sort of situations get resolved, reversed, changed, whatever it may be.
I'm sure Sony will not reverse it, because I'm
they
sure
did with
Sony
Helldivers, so it's possible.
But at that point with Helldivers was already out before they forced everybody to connect to Sony. So that's the difference. It's like people were already playing Helldivers, and then Sony came out and said, okay, now you need to have a Sony account. And that, maybe my memory is correct. I think that's like shortly after that, which pissed off everybody, because at that point it was like, we have already been playing this, right? Because I know, like, for example, there are a couple of games in Steam that run through another launcher, like Spider-Man. For example, if you're gonna play Spider-Man, and I can't remember what other games, it has to run through EA, so it doesn't even run through Steam at all.
I'm pretty sure Star Wars Fallen Order,
Battlefield does too. Battlefield 6 does the same thing. It has to run through the EA UI. It doesn't run through Steam itself. So, like, again, like if you're a normie and you have the launch come up, it says like install this, you might just click OK, and then you'll just launch it, and then you don't know it's actually connected to something completely different, and it's not running through Steam.
And I have no doubt Tokon is fun, Estra. I'm a huge fan of technical fighters. I'm a huge fan of Arc Sys, and I'm a huge fan of Marvel when it's good. But the fact of the matter is that game is effectively unplayable on Steam without giving Sony my data, my information. Still has dog shit compatibility because of the anti-easy cheat. Or the easy anti-cheat. So I don't care how fun it is. I will not, I likely will not have an avenue to play it without giving over my data to Sony, which I refuse to do.
Yeah.
So that is, again, more anti-consumer bullshit.
Like I said, fucking $100 wasted.
Hopefully not wasted. Hopefully I find a way around that, because, again, I do want to play the game, and I do want to, of course, play the game because you got it for me, and I don't want you to have wasted that fucking money. Like I said, if I have to end up creating a sock puppet account through a VPN with a fake email, I'll fucking do that. But, like, the Tokon situation is absolute bullshit.
Yeah. It's so retarded. And I'm really mad that they're doing this. And of course, you know that it's going to be lagging. So if you're going to be competing against other people, and if it's going to be like crossplay, you're going to be competing with people that won't have that like 2 or 3 way connection. You're going to be at a disadvantage.
And no, you can't, to my knowledge, you can't refund the gift. It's like, not that I ever advocate someone do this, because this is horrible manners, never do it. But back in the day, if someone gifted you something, let's say for Christmas, you could technically be an asshole and go back to the store and return it and get your money back. This is another problem with digital platforms, and Steam's not immune to this. I'm not, I'm not a die on the hill of Steam type of guy, because Steam has its own issues. But no, unlike with real life, where if you get something gifted to you physically, you can technically go return it and get money back. There's not a way to do that on Steam because it's a digital only storefront.
Mm-hmm.
But again, never do that with physical stuff. If you get a physical gift, like keep it, treasure it. That means somebody cared about you enough to get you a gift. Like never return it for money. That's so fucking douchey.
Data to justify why they believe the end of physical media is imminent and why we are powerless to stop it, let's take a closer look at the individuals pushing this narrative. Let's start with Jason Schreier because it's worth properly explaining who he is before we go into more detail about what he actually is. These days, Schreier is a Bloomberg journalist, widely regarded as one of the most well-connected reporters working in games media today. With a long track record of breaking major stories about studio closures, crunch culture, and internal drama at companies like Blizzard, BioWare, and Sony itself. Earlier this year, he was the one who broke the news that Sony no longer intends to bring its single-player games to PC. And back in January 2025, he reported details on what Bluepoint Games, a Sony-owned studio, had actually been working on before their live service project was cancelled. His reputation is genuinely earned in a lot of respects. Schreier has done real, valuable reporting, and I want to be fair about that before I get into my...
Nah.
Don't be fair.
I get her want to be fair because at the end of the day, unlike us, or at least unlike me, she's not an outrage grifter. But Jason Schreier is a blind squirrel. A blind squirrel still manages to find a nut every now and again. Jason Schreier, 9 times out of 10, does not do real reporting. He just has, on occasion, done real reporting. There is no reason to be fair to this absolute loser.
Problems with his latest video, but Schreier is also a controversial figure for exactly the same reason that makes him so effective, and we can't pretend that tension doesn't exist when it comes to his work. His entire career, his ability to keep breaking stories month after month, depends on maintaining relationships.
Look, Shady Blaze, you ain't gotta be PC in my chat. He looks like a cuck. Yes.
With sources deep inside these companies. Studios need to trust him enough to keep talking to him. Executives need to feel comfortable enough to leak him information without feeling like he's going to turn around and torch them publicly. And that dynamic inevitably shapes how a story eventually gets framed once it reaches your screen, whether Schreier himself is consciously aware of it or not. June last year, he publicly complained on Blue Sky that gaming outlets had completely taken his words out of context over GTA 6 delay reporting, accusing them of misleading readers and grimly summing up their coverage. That tells you something quite revealing about how carefully he manages his own public image and how sensitive he is to being portrayed as anything other than the calm, detached, purely informational voice in the room, rather than someone with any skin in the game at all. His video on...
Well, since he's a Jew, it'd be foreskin in the game, but...
the death of physical discs runs through a genuinely useful historical timeline of companies restricting used games and chipping away at the second-hand market over the decades. And on the history itself, I don't disagree with him one bit. Where I do disagree is in how he frames what's happening right now, treating it as though it's simply the natural, inevitable endpoint of that history playing out, rather than a decision Sony is actively, deliberately choosing to make in 2026 with an extremely clear financial incentive sitting behind it that he himself lays out in numbers. Schreier's own numbers, reported by Twisted Voxel and PC Quest, show that for a $70 first-party game sold physically, Sony keeps around $45.50 after manufacturing costs and retail margins are accounted.
And you know what? That's fine. As a company, you should be happy with these numbers because that is profit.
Yeah, definitely.
Here's the thing about the free market. Yes, you can be a sleazy business person who wants to squeeze every little coin out of someone, and you're free to do that because it's the free market. But the smart business owner will take a little bit less money in the short term for longevity. If you take less money up front, if you take less money in the immediate, but people continue to buy your thing so you get more money in the long term, that will always be a more winning strategy.
Yeah, I agree with that.
accounted for. Sell that exact same game digitally, and Sony keeps close to the full $70, an increase of roughly 54%. For third-party titles, the jump works out to roughly 40%. That's not PlayStation doesn't benefit from used games, which is essentially the framing his video leans on early. That's PlayStation being predatory.
You're wrong. Concord was closer to 800 million, but anyway.
Wanting a dramatically bigger cut than it currently gets and choosing to remove the option entirely rather than simply competing for a larger share of it. Look, he never once uses the words greedy to describe that decision, despite his own numbers essentially spelling it out for him in black and white, sitting right there in the video he made. Oh, and then there's his pinned comment underneath the video, which I genuinely think is one of the single most telling things to come out of this entire saga, and it deserves reading in full. He wrote directly on his own channel, "I just want to be clear about something. If you are looking for rage and screaming about how evil corporations are, there are plenty of other YouTube channels out there for you. My goal is and will always be to report news, offer context, explain why things are happening, maybe make a dumb joke or two, and try to inform people rather than elicit strong emotions. If you think that's being a shill, feel free to fuck right off."
Then explain to me all them PlayStation Insider goodie bags and events you get to go to and how you manage to get all the scoops before anybody else. You don't get that unless you're buddy with the people that you're reporting on, which again would be definitionally a shill.
Because he's doing all this stuff for access. That's what he's doing.
Exactly.
Smiley face. Essentially, such a pinned comment is
Shady
there
Blaze,
to
I was gonna bring this up. Yo, how me and Sevi, we're not award-winning journalists or anything like that. We're just a couple motherfuckers on here who like to talk about video games because we're real goddamn gamers. How we got way cooler, better fucking backgrounds than Jason Schreier. Like, why do I trust a dude like reporting on video games who looks like he's filming in his fucking grandma's house, aside from the fact that maybe because he's a broke loser gamer, he can only afford to live with grandma.
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, like, you guys are only seeing a part of my collection because I have more
the
stuff.
Whole ass on the shelf over here off screen.
Yeah.
Got
same
stuff
here.
On the top of it.
I have.
Then I've got my Dragon Ball section. Then my Star Wars section. Then all my physical media on the bottom two shelves. Not all my physical media, just the physical media I decided to put there.
I have a bunch of stuff over here that you're not seeing, and then Leon has seen this. I have boxes of unopened stuff that I have not sorted, and then in my basement, my basement has like a bunch of stuff too, all over the walls and everything. So it's like,
y'all can't see where my camera is. Lining my where the ceiling meets the wall, like that entry point. I have action figures in their original packaging lining the fucking walls.
Yeah.
I got fucking handmade original Yu-Gi-Oh art on the walls. I've got so much shit that's dope ass nerd stuff that you guys just don't see because of this setup.
Yeah, exactly. Same here. Like for me, like the stuff you kind of see is just like the cutesy stuff in the background that I think is kind of cute. But I do have the ray gun, which I love, which is over here.
Hold on, let me bigger. Show it again.
Oh, sure. Let me show the ray gun. Okay, I have a bunch of stuff that I really like, but this is my favorite, the ray gun.
Nice.
Yeah. So I mean, like, I have a bunch of stuff. I have.
But y'all don't even see. We're showing stuff off real quick. Here, you keep showing stuff off.
All right, I'll keep showing some of the stuff off of here. I mean, I have like so much stuff, and then I have stuff over there, like behind the Sailor Moon anime. I have. Let me hold on. Let me show you guys. Hold on. I'm gonna pick up my.
Y'all don't even fucking see because it's off camera. I autographed Sam Raimi fucking poster, like a lithograph from the original filming of Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, like signed by Sam Raimi himself.
I have a bunch. Like I have a lot of Asuka's, like, because I love Asuka. She's like my favorite. Like a bunch of my stuff fell off. Like 20th anniversary. I just have so much stuff, and then there's way more stuff over there in the back where you can kind of see kind of fell off. So yeah, like I think like for some reason, I think that we are actually real gamers. We actually know what we're talking about.
Back to the video.
Preemptively frame anyone who disagrees with his framing as simply an irrational screaming rage baiter, someone incapable of engaging with context, while positioning his own take, which conveniently absolves Sony of any real accountability for the decision, as the calm, rational, properly informed one. By this point, you can't even call it neutral journalism. That's a preloaded insult aimed squarely at anyone who might push back on his framing, dressed up as professional detachment and telling your own audience to essentially fuck off in a pinned comment is a genuinely strange way of demonstrating that you're above eliciting strong emotions. I mean, that's ridiculous, really. What makes this even more frustrating is that Schreier had every opportunity in this video to actually hold Sony to account using his own reporting. It clearly has the numbers, it clearly understands the incentive structure, but instead of landing on Sony is choosing profit over customer choice and here's proof, he lands on something closer to, this was always going to happen, so don't get...
Yeah, because overwhelmingly customers choose physical or choose digital over physical means we should get rid of physical. Like, if I had to wager a guess, I don't know if this is true. If I had to wager a guess, when you go into McDonald's, what do you think most people buy, babe?
Nuggets.
And the other option?
McFlurries.
No, cheeseburgers, baby, cheeseburgers.
Oh.
Point is, good goddamn well the people that walk into McDonald's choose nuggets and cheeseburgers way more than salad, right? Way more than salad.
Yeah, if I'm going to get a salad, I'm not going to get a salad from McDonald's.
But does McDonald's take salad off the menu?
No.
Exactly.
No.
Too worked up about it.
Go on.
Oh no, I was gonna say because I'm assuming they want people who are like out and about, or they're going on a date, because I mean I went to a lot of dates at McDonald's when like I was in high school because that was the cheap thing to do.
Yes,
at that point.
I won't lie, I've done that as well.
Yeah, so like at that point it's like, well, like the girl is obviously gonna get a salad, the guy's always gonna get a burger, but
the point is, McDonald's keeps salad on the menu because there's a market for it, even if it is a smaller market than cheeseburgers or nuggets.
For sure.
Those are two very different conclusions to draw from the exact same set of facts, and only one of them lets Sony off the hook. You don't structure, but instead of landing on Sony is choosing profit over customer choice and here's proof, he lands on something closer to, this was always going to happen, so don't get too worked up about it.
Base.
Those are two very different conclusions to draw from the exact same set of facts, and only one of them lets Sony off the hook. You don't need to be angry about the situation to notice what is happening here. Calmness is not the same thing as neutrality, and sounding detached does not make Schreier's framing objective. Sometimes the facts genuinely justify anger, and refusing to say so does not make you more informed than everybody else. It merely makes you extremely useful to the people responsible, especially when you are actively telling your audience that what PlayStation is doing is inevitable. But of course, Schreier is only one individual peddling this "they cannot be stopped" narrative. So let's move on to the next person promoting this myth. Alannah Pearce's background here is, in my opinion, the most directly relevant of all three, because Pearce isn't just a commentator who's occasionally spoken to people at PlayStation. She works there and works there on the very franchise now at the center of this entire disc conversation. Games Radar reported that Pearce joined Sony's Santa Monica Studios in November 2020 as a video game writer, working directly on the God of War franchise. Game Reactor later confirmed she remained at the studio for roughly 4 years before leaving in December 2024 to care for a family member who was terminally ill, which is obviously a genuinely difficult and understandable reason to step away from a job. But Here's the detail that I think changes everything, and it's not something she volunteers up front in her video either. According to reporting circulating this year, Pearce spent 4 full years writing on God of War Laufey, specifically the very game we discussed at length in a previous video, over its own separate controversy involving the Faye character model. And according to Pearce's own recent comments reported by Game Reactor and VG Times just this week, she has continued working with Santa Monica in a freelance capacity even after her official departure, and in her own words, still has to follow some of Sony's communications guidelines, even though she left the company a year and a half ago.
NDAs be a bitch.
Well,
You're a lawyer. I'm
that's-
sure you would know. Have you written up any NDAs or anything, or had to
honey, I write them every fucking day. But no, this is not like this is not so much of an NDA, because it's not that's non-disclosure per se. Is like they're telling her what she can say and cannot say. So they're giving her, like, based on her statement there,
they're giving her a script, basically.
They're giving her a script for things that are approved to say. You know how, like, they have the script of, like, generally, like, we know because this stuff is, you know, usually comes out when there's shills participating in events. They're giving bullet points of these are the keywords we want you to use, right? Because in a way, it makes sense, right? If you use certain keywords on Twitter, it'll hit the algorithm on Twitter, and then, like, it will promote whatever game it is that they're doing.
Right.
So I understand using certain keywords for those, but it is so organized. So this is really what it sounds like it's doing. It's not about you cannot talk about it. So an NDA is you cannot talk about it at all. A non-disparagement clause means you cannot talk badly about the game. So it could be more non-disparagement, but the way it sounded like is they're giving her bullet points of things that she should be saying.
It's an evil world we live in.
Yeah.
She said directly, Sony does somewhat regularly tell employees what they can or can't say about certain things. I was under a lot of guidelines when I was working on God of War Laufey. I still am. And they did send me guidelines regarding what I could say on the day the game was announced.
What did I say? That's exactly what they're doing.
And this is all as a non-employee, mind you.
Yeah, non-employee.
How is that not a shill? She is out here. Sony is telling her what she can and can't say, and she is openly complying with it. That is shill behavior. Because if I had to wager a guess, there would be no legal ramification for her stepping outside of what they say she can and can't say unless she signed, again, an NDA, which, again, according to your legal expertise, doesn't sound like this is exactly that.
Well, if they attach money to it, like, say, for example, they did a severance package, and part of that severance package require her to be involved and help participate or promote something, or say, because if there has to be consideration, which is money. But I can see Sony, like, saying, like, if you're part of this and you are gonna be talking about the game, we'll give you some money for participating in the creation of the game and being part of a spokesperson's, role. And sometimes you have additional clauses in a contract that says this will survive the termination of your employment. So I'm assuming that's
this means that whenever she talks about brands like PlayStation, she's not a former employee speaking from a comfortable distance. She is someone currently working with Sony, currently receiving communications guidance from Sony, discussing a decision made by Sony on her YouTube channel. Her video, titled with genuinely staggering confidence, "Everyone is missing the point," spends the whole runtime explaining that PlayStation knew this decision would be hated, knew the backlash was coming, and that none of the public outrage, none of the petitioning will ultimately change anything. Out of the 3 people in this video, this is the one that frustrates me the most, because she isn't just speaking in absolute, which I hate. She's doing it while explicitly positioning herself as the only person who actually understands what's happening here, and everyone else, by the video's own title, as clueless or too emotional to see it clearly. She uses graphs and stats flashed up quickly on screen throughout the video, with barely any explanation given for what they're actually measuring,
Because she probably
where they're
didn't
sourced
create
from,
them.
or
Oh
She
no,
probably
yeah,
didn't
she
create
took
them.
them from like a Forbes article or something.
Or Sony gave the because usually, like, if you're gonna be talking about something and they have bullet points for you to do, they'll also attach graphics and for you to be able to use. I mean, how many times have you gotten an email from a game developer saying, "Hey, we want you to try our game, and this is our press media kit with a bunch of images and charts and like and things like they want you to be able to cover about the game when you review the game."
Dongle says, didn't she do something stupid a few years ago? Recognize the name from somewhere. If you follow Smash JT, maybe that's what you recognize it from. She supposedly had his video straight up removed from YouTube for nudity when he showed a picture of her that exposed her knees.
Yep, I saw that.
Nothing else, just her knees.
Yeah,
And,
just Sony's.
Smash appealed it and lost, and he had to keep the video removed because, again, of sexual content. So if you follow Smash, that might be what you're thinking. Yep, yeah, that's it, Smash. Okay, yeah, so yep, that's the one. Exactly.
I remember laughing so many times. Like, every time my knee was on camera, I was like, "Oh God, this hopefully this is not pulled down for nudity because of that."
Yeah, I've thought the same thing. Guys, I don't know how to tell you this. There's holes in my jeans. Don't flag the stream for nudity because I got holes in my jeans right now. Look at all that knee.
Oh God! Wow! Look at that. So much knee.
They cover. Pause the video and look closely, and several of them appear noticeably outdated. And at least one of them doesn't tell you where it's sourced from or how any of the data on it is being measured, which massively distorts any meaningful
there was also
comparison.
the parent comment. She called being a parent a situational disability. I totally forgot about that.
I remember about that.
I totally forgot about that.
I forgot she did that too. Oh my God, she's just so stupid.
Sure says about to flag right now.
No.
Person being drawn. I don't know about you, but I don't see that as informing an audience properly. That's presenting the illusion of hard, settled data in order to close a conversation down without giving anyone remotely enough context to actually check whether the numbers mean what she's implying that they mean. She does reveal one genuinely important detail in the video and credit where it's due, because it's a real scoop. People she spoke to at PlayStation First Party Studios, presumably former colleagues she stayed close with, told her Sony issued the strictest social media guidelines the company has ever put out, specifically around the physical media decision. In her own words, Sony already knew everyone would be pissed off. They knew this. They would only have done this if they knew it was going to be an enormous PR issue. This is no surprise to them. She's also claimed separately that Sony's disc manufacturing facility is reportedly already being repurposed into a micro-lens facility for AI data centers, which, if accurate, tells you a great deal about how permanent Sony considers this decision actually to be. Now, think carefully about what that detail actually proves, because Pearce draws the opposite conclusion from it than I think it warrants. If Sony genuinely believed this was an uncontroversial, inevitable decision that nobody would meaningfully push back on, they wouldn't need to lock down their own staff's communications months in advance to this degree. That's not evidence the fight is already lost. And it's certainly not.
I would like to refer you guys to a tweet. June 30th, 2010, from PlayStation themselves. If you're an American and you care about gaming and your rights, sign the gamer petition today. There was a period of time where Sony understood and gave a fuck about American values and the concept of ownership. This is an official Sony tweet from 16 years ago.
Wow.
Oh, how the mighty have fallen.
Well, you saw their tweet about how they're asking people to buy their new Sony, what is it called, a record player, because this is the way that music should be listened to and not digital music.
No, I didn't hear that.
Hold on.
Or see that.
Because I tweet about it. I was laughing so fucking hard. Give me a second.
And yeah, as I actually watched a YouTube doc a few weeks ago about how evil Machinima was. While you find out, I'm gonna hit play.
I just found it.
Oh, you
Backlash.
found it? All right, share your screen.
All right. So this is it. So this is my tweet, right? But this is the Sony part. It says rediscovered the warmth, detail, and ritual of vinyl with the LX3 turntable. Drop the needle, press play, and enjoy music the way it was meant to be heard. Time to upgrade.
Oh, the irony!
Yeah, they're getting cooked in the
Bro,
comments.
Flash got him, bro.
So the comment section isn't going how you hope. Nope, they did not. Look at this. Take your pick, Sony. No disc, no buy. Someone tell the guys at PlayStation that pretty physical media is worth supporting, even if it's a small niche. Greed has no limits. Fuck the players. You see how vinyl has made a comeback and is selling like hotcakes, and you go and wipe out physical format of video games for players, for not for players, for the investors.
Are
you kidding me?
Video. I'm actually gonna say this. I'm gonna say this to like for once not be snarky because you and I get very combative in these posts. I agree with you that the PS6 will not have a disc drive. It was never going to have a disc drive. If Sony was smart, they were as greedy as we know they are, they would have made a disc drive a peripheral and then charge people an extra $50, $60, $100 even for said peripheral and continued to put out games on disc. Like this is not only retardation by Sony. You can make a console without a disc drive. Google Stadia was literally exclusively cloud gaming. Obviously, that fucking failed. But it's because the technology wasn't really there for cloud gaming at the time. I argue it still kind of isn't. But the point is, the idea of making a digital-only console isn't really even unheard of because you can then sell physical peripherals. We asked Nintendo about the peripherals. Nintendo was big on peripherals. Sega was huge on peripherals. Most of the time didn't work out, but like video game companies and peripherals is as tale as old as time. Sony could have done that.
Yeah. They could have. This is just crazy. Anyway, so that happened.
Won't change anything, which is the framing she lands on. That's direct evidence that Sony is nervous. And nervous companies are companies that can still be moved. Whether someone who's still doing paid freelance work for that same company wants to draw that conclusion publicly or not. Alannah Pearce didn't present any evidence that everyone is missing the point, like her video title had suggested. In fact, if anyone is missing the point, actually, it's her. Still, of course, so there's only two of the individuals claiming that it's all over for physical.
Now we about to get to it. Laffy Jaffe, creator of Twisted Metal and God of War, of course, had to shill for Sony.
Of course,
gamers, we have one more to get through. David Jaffe's relationship with Sony is arguably the deepest and longest running of all three people featured in this video. Jaffe spent 13 years at Sony Computer Entertainment America, joining in the early 1990s and staying through 2007, where he directed the original God of War, widely considered one of the single best PlayStation exclusives ever made, along with the Twisted Metal series that helped define PlayStation's early identity entirely. This isn't someone who...
I hate to say it, Patrick. There's nothing to make fun of Jaffe for. Even Jaffe doesn't like God of War Lafay. He, in a rare moment of candidness, he was against God of War Lafay, strictly because, again, he had no control or creation or anything of it. He has not been attached to God of War since, I believe, God of War 3 was his last one. And he, did he walk? If he walked it back, I did not know that. Because yeah, he was. We covered it. Me and Cinny. I don't remember if Sebi was there now. Me and Cinny covered it. He was talking like kind of mad for about a minute and a half, 2 minutes. But he talked some shit.
Once worked adjacent to PlayStation for a project or two, Jaffe is one of the people who personally helped build PlayStation's entire creative legacy from the ground up, and he's spent much of the 20 years since leaving the company still talking publicly constantly about that legacy. And by his own account, that relationship hasn't ended just because he left the company back in 2007. As recently as October 2025, less than a year ago, he posted a video titled, "I helped make God of War, and look what Sony just sent me," showing off a 20th anniversary God of War retrospective art book containing the Greek saga, the Norse saga, and a full anniversary retrospective that Sony Santa Monica Studio, the very studio he helped found, had personally sent to him. He unboxed it on camera, calling it a love letter to the fans, the developers, and the mythology that made God of War iconic. That's not the language of someone with a purely historical arm's length relationship to this company. That is someone who, decades on, still clearly feels warmly enough towards Sony to be receiving personal gifts from them and to publicly gush about it on his own channel. David Jaffe is a man who opens his video about the end of physical discs by saying that if he simply told people what they wanted to hear,
how you doing, homie? Appreciate you for dropping in, brother. You and Tech Rap. We got so much of the OG cabal in here. Nice.
It's the so-called outrage machine. His subscriber count would explode overnight.
Well, it's because nobody knew who he was until then. David Jaffe was an absolute nobody to anybody except the most ardent of gaming nerds. Because yeah, people who there are people out there that know the names of their favorite developers. Like me, I can tell you right now that oh my god, I can't believe I just fucking
guess you don't know them that well.
What was that?
I guess you don't know them that
well.
I
talk about him all the time, and I just blank on his name. Why am I blanking on his name? Jesus Christ. Now I'm gonna have to Google it.
This is too funny.
Yep, I had a bad moment. Shinji Mikami. I kept wanting to say Shingo Yamamoto, which is not. Shingo Yamamoto, just so you guys know, by the way, is the only competitor, or at least for the longest time, was the only competitor to ever competed in every single Sasuke tournament in Japan. Yes, Shinji Mikami. Shinji Mikami is, in my opinion, the greatest game developer of all time. I'm a ride or die Shinji Mikami fan. Yes, that was a self-felt Tiger King. Shinji Mikami. If the dude puts out a game, I will buy it. Like I loathe farming simulators. I don't play farming simulators. I don't like them. But if Shinji Mikami announced a farming simulator tomorrow, my ass is buying it because Shinji Mikami makes such great fucking games. There's some game devs out there that like fans, they know them by name. They are like a celebrity to them. Point is, there are people that were probably fans enough of God of War, fans enough of Twisted Metal. They knew David Jaffe. The vast majority of the world, the internet, whatnot, they did not know who David Jaffe was. And then he puts out these videos basically stating, yo, I'm the guy that made it. And bingo, bango, bongo, he blows up. And then what's the first thing he does? Gets invested in the culture war. And he does it on the opposite side. Dude is a bitch.
Mm-hmm. Describes the end of physical media as a brutal, unavoidable reality, the exact same absolute language as Schreier and Pearce, treating this as a fact that has already happened rather than a decision still very much being contested. He leans very heavily throughout on the framing that he's in the industry and we're not, so we should simply trust his read on it, presenting his own personal theories as settled fact, or while brushing past it.
Yes, I do think that Mikami still got it, and here's why, Tiger King. Because I actually think this is a pretty fair question. I know you'd be like, oh, I despise this, or oh, I hate that, or whatnot. But in all reality, I know a lot of times it's for the meme, or even not for the meme. But the reason I think Mikami still got it is his most recent game. Because in my opinion, you're only as good as your last game. And his last game was a banger. Hi-Fi Rush was a banger. He went from Resident Evil. Well, actually, he went from DuckTales. Fucking hilariously enough. DuckTales, or maybe it was Goof Troop. I think it was Goof Troop. Either way, he went from Disney afternoon games to Resident Evil Then to the Evil Within. In between the Evil Within, there was one called like Eternal Darkness or something that I only played a little bit of. I didn't really like it that much, but I've heard it's actually really good. So maybe I should go back and give it a try. It was on the 360. Anyway, we went from Disney games to Resident Evil to I think Eternal Darkness, and then to Evil Within, then Hi-Fi Rush, which was just a feast for the eyes and ears. Hi-Fi Rush is one of the best games I've played in the last. If I was to rank like my favorite games of the last 5 years, that one would hit the top 10. I don't know where it would be on the top 10, but it would hit the top 10. And then it was announced his next game, he is partnering with Shift Up, the people behind Stellar Blade. We've got Shift Up of Stellar Blade fame and my favorite game director, Shinji Mikami, teaming up for Mikami's next project. I do think Mikami's still got it. Oh, you know, it wasn't the Eternal Darkness thing. You're right. Eternal Darkness was GameCube. Fuck, what was it? I'll have to look up. It was the game he did with Hideki Kamiya. Or, I mean, Suda51. It was Shinji Mikami and Suda51 on the Xbox 360. I'll have to look up what game it was. I don't remember. But anyway, I do think he's still got it because I think you're only as good as your last game, and his last game was a banger.
Second-hand markets actual rolling, keeping people spending on new games in the first place. When you've spent 13 years inside of a company and decades more staying close to it afterwards, trust me, I know how the business works.
Shadows of the Damned. That was the game. Shadows of the Damned was the game that they released on Xbox 360 that I didn't play too terribly much of because I didn't really like. Yeah, Ezra was correct. Yep, Shadows of the Damned. I owe it another playthrough because I mean, Suda51 and Shinji Mikami are both gods in the industry. I may have just been too young to appreciate it. DuckTales, woohoo! Yeah, the Damned one. Yep, Shadows of the Damned.
That still is
Stops
fun.
sounding like humility and starts sounding like a very convenient way of shutting down anyone without your specific access.
Gooch says, Sevi, we made it home Friday and it was awesome. We love Tennessee.
Ah, that's so awesome! I hope
Tennessee's great.
I hope you guys stop by the places I recommended. But
you gave me quite a bit of recommendations for Tennessee.
I'll text you guys. I'll text you guys later.
So here's the pattern that connects all three of these videos, and once you see it, it's genuinely hard to unsee. Schreier, Pearce, and Jaffe all present themselves as outsiders, independent of the usual YouTube gaming machine, simply here to inform you. But all three have deep, ongoing ties to the industry itself, and specifically to Sony. Schreier depends on Sony sources to keep breaking stories and clearly manages his own image carefully to protect those relationships.
Bro, look, nah. Look at this dude. He does not manage his own image.
He does not.
This guy looks. George Costanza could beat this motherfucker up. Like, what sort of pussy you gotta be to look like if George Costanza could take you into UFC? I'm just saying.
You're not wrong.
Pearce is currently right now doing paid freelance work for Sony Santa Monica on the exact franchise caught up in this controversy and is still bound by their communications guidelines. Jaffe is still friendly enough with Sony that he is receiving gifts from them decades after leaving the company.
Yeah, I think with the sub there in Nostalgia Games Room.
All three of them use that access this week not to empower their audiences with better information, but to tell them in absolute terms that any form of resistance is pointless. The sort of words that, if taken seriously by enough people, could be considerably damaging for the future of physical media. Frankly, I think this futility is a completely toxic attitude to have because
it's not only is the futility a toxic attitude to have, it is an engineered attitude. Like, they would not be Sony would not be, in my opinion, you can of course give me your thoughts, hon. Sony would not be trotting out their most tried and true trusted shills that for whatever reason large swaths of the gaming fan base flock towards if they didn't think that this was actually a bad idea. Maybe the gamers do have a chance. They need to now trot out their PR team to say, guys, this was inevitable. This is going to happen anyway. Basically, is a soft power way of getting people to accept.
Of course, this is exactly what they're doing. Day one, the fucking retards they're basically stand to benefit from Sony making this move, right? To having no disc because of the factories and everything that they're creating. The people that stand to have a substantial financial benefit came out and said, hey, trust me, I'm a researcher, and what I'm going to tell you is that you can decide not to support Sony all you want, but this is going to happen anyway, and you basically saying fuck Sony, I'm gonna walk away, is gonna do nothing. Immediately after that tweet came out and the article came out, I think my comment was, I bet they stand to have substantial financial gain out of this. Because who is paying this researcher? This makes no fucking sense. In what world do you have a quote scientist or a researcher come out and tell people, hey, give up. Just trust Sony. Just give up.
Well, actually, I can give you an example of that because we saw it with COVID. Trust the science. I'm Dr. Fauci. I am the science.
Exactly. And he stood to benefit. If you look at the emails and everything, he was the one who was
his
saying,
lab.
Yeah, it was his lab. And he was the one telling people, hey, telling the government, I only want you to talk to these 3 people. Don't trust everybody else. Only do them. Because, of course, he's trying to cover up. If you have somebody speaking just with such, I don't know, authority, and they come and say, and they throw their authority at your face and then say, just trust me, bro. Just trust me. Of course Sony is behind this because they know that we can actually make a difference. So it is easier for them to basically tell everybody, just give up, and have it come from different sources telling them, just give up. It's not worth your time because you're not going to win. So why bother?
Just so you know, we've got 92 people watching on YouTube right now, 181 watching across all platforms, plenty of viewers on Kick. I might be the only one that appreciates this comment. Bernays would be proud. That's fucking funny. I just want to let you know that I see you. I appreciate you. That's funny. But yes, no, this is catastrophic for Sony. Or at least it could be cash out for Sony, depending on how many dumb fucks they're actually able to convince with them trotting out their tried and true shills.
Yeah, of course. I'll be right back, though.
All right.
It removes all autonomy from individuals and reduces us to passive spectators in decisions that directly affect what we own, how much we pay, and whether the games we purchase will remain accessible in the future. It tells people that corporations are simply forces of nature, that resistance is child.
We just got a bigot army raid. Shout out to the bigot army. You love to see it. We're actually only going for a little bit longer, but you know what? I appreciate the raid nonetheless. We still got to hit the super chats after this topic. Thank you all so much. Me and Sevi are once again talking about the downfall of Sony, the removal of the discs. She stepped away for a moment. What's up, Lucky Boy? What's up, Mr. Melancholy? What's up, Alucard? I appreciate the bigot army raid. Hypno, thank you so much.
Dish. And that the only mature response is to quietly accept whatever business model is imposed on us next. It is learned helplessness dressed up as industry expertise. And it is not the right sort of thing to be saying to gamers if we want a more positive future. The fact of the matter is, companies reverse decisions all the time when the financial costs, reputational damage, or consumer backlash becomes greater than the benefits they hoped to extract.
And we have industry proof of this. I talk about it all the time, and it's not because I'm a biased fanboy. When Ugly Sonic was revealed to the populace in that very first Sonic the Hedgehog trailer by Paramount, all the way back in like 2018 or whatever year it was, the internet outcry was glorious. Bro, I've never seen a more unified internet since when Ugly Sonic was revealed and everybody eviscerated Paramount. And you know what Paramount did? Paramount said, our bad. We gonna go fix this shit now. Sorry. Like, when our girl here, when Lady Decade says companies walk back decisions all the time, it is not impossible. It is not impossible at all to get Sony to walk this back. I'm not saying it'll be easy. I'm not saying the vast majority, it won't take a lot of work, But to treat it as like an inevitability that physical was going away. We had Sega. I haven't made a video on this yet. I'm going to make a video on this. I know you quote tweeted it, babe. Sega came out saying, we still value physical media. We're still going to do physical media. And I know there's a lot of hate towards Sega right now. Understandably so. With a lot of the ways they've been doing things, treating VTubers like Mia, using things like Frogan to promote Sonic the Hedgehog, Sega been doing a lot of bad. So this isn't me capping for Sega. But when Sega says we still value physical media, we're still putting out physical games, you can't deny that's a good fucking thing.
Yeah, and they came out in their own tweet, and they even said, like, we understand why Sony is doing this because they're gonna make a lot of money by killing physical media.
That is the only reason. This has nothing to do with players are buying more physical or more digital. We may as well do digital. It is purely to line their pockets.
Yeah, of course.
'Twas not beauty that killed the beast. 'Twas greed. They only released on Switch 2. That's still a physical release. Games don't need to be multi-plat. A physical release is a physical release.
We've seen disastrous policies abandoned, prices reduced, services changed, and entire strategies rewritten because customers refused to cooperate. None of that is guaranteed to happen here, but saying resistance cannot work is fundamentally different from saying it might not work. One is a reasonable warning. The other is an instruction to surrender before the argument has even begun. And perhaps that's why these videos...
Yo, Tiger King coming out with... He been throwing some heat tonight. I want a fighting game with Ugly Sonic and Sanic. Two legends.
Do you know what I found when I sent you that game?
What?
I found there's an old Dragon Ball game of Dragon Ball versus Saint Seiya.
Real Dragon Ball versus Saint Seiya? So your favorite anime versus my favorite anime?
Yeah,
that's wild. I did not know there was a Dragon Ball versus Saint Seiya game.
Yeah.
And Tiger King, I also hate game key cards. Not even because they're inherently bad. I mean, I would argue they are, but that's not even the reason. The reason I hate game key cards is because they are confusing to the consumer. No mom of a 10-year-old Nintendo fan understands the difference between actual games on the cartridge and game key cards. Nintendo adding game key cards it is just confusing to the consumer. So it is a bad consumer practice. You got it. Knuckles would also, would absolutely fit in. Do you know the way? Yes. Do you know the way? Shout out, Wheat then.
Videos have irritated me so bloody much. It's not simply that Schreier, Pearce, and Jaffe disagree with those of us fighting for physical media. They are using their authority, access, and industry credentials to convince ordinary players that they possess no power whatsoever. While the corporation actively taking their choices away is treated as though it is merely following the inevitable flow of history. Well, I reject that entirely. Sony is making a choice. Customers are allowed to respond to that choice, and nobody with professional connections to the company gets to declare the outcome predetermined before the rest of us have even had the chance to fight back. Educating an audience means giving them the full picture, including your own connections and potential biases, and trusting them to reach their own conclusion.
You know, Asvel, Master Splinter would find this a very offensive comment, but he would also then agree with you.
Lecturing an audience means handing them a conclusion and discouraging them from questioning it.
BTX. Sevi likes BTX too.
What is that?
I don't know.
Oh, yeah, let me Google. BTX.
Schreier's pinned comment insults anyone who disagrees before they've even finished watching. Pearce's title insists you've missed the point before the video has even started, without leading with the fact that she's still contractually guided by Sony today. Jaffe frames his own restraint from feeding outrage as proof he's automatically correct. None of that is education. That's all lecture dressed up as insight from three people considerably closer to Sony than the rest.
Oh, Sony's saying him at BTS. Well, I like BTS. I showed Sevi a few BTS songs, and she was like, they're okay.
Yeah, they're not my thing.
I
I like my music to be angry and nostalgic and loud.
I feel like I need to show you at least one or two more. I know I've shown you some of the Korean stuff. I showed you some of the English stuff, but I don't think I showed you butter. Did I show you butter?
Yes, you did.
God damn it. Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
Rest of us. And here's what actually bothers me the most about all three of these videos landing in the same week. Nobody actually knows how this ends yet.
And that's all you can make art. All right. So you got Sevi, you got me, you got Hypno, you got Atreus. A lot of us cover the same shit, and within a week, and we have our own individual takes on it, right? Sometimes Atreus be shilling for Halo while I'm talking shilling Halo. Sometimes Hypnotic be talking about Microsoft stuff. I will also be talking about Microsoft stuff, but maybe I'll only focus on Fallout when he talks about Asha as a whole. Like, the point is, we all cover things within the same vein, right? But for these three individuals, the three biggest shills for PlayStation to all come out in the same week and effectively all make the same video, that is not organic. Like, me, Hypno, Atreus, Cassie, we never talk to each other about what we are doing videos on. Okay, sort of, until our videos are done, by and large. Like, I'd be like, yo, guys, I got a video coming out tomorrow. Here's what we did. Like, here's what I did. Just to talk about it. We never like coordinate. Yo, is anyone else talking about Halo? Because I'm going to talk about Halo. You don't want to talk about never. Anytime that we cover similar topics, it is completely organic because it's shit that we all just happen to be interested in. This was inorganic. You've got Sony's three biggest shills releasing effectively the same video all within a week of each other. That is studio mandate. I assume you have something to say on that.
Yeah, I mean, this is really, really suspicious. I don't believe in coincidences. So the fact that we know that one of them is being told by Sony what to say, the other one gets gifts from Sony, and the other one gets access to Sony events, you can't just, you have to look at why are they talking about it? What's their motivation for talking about it? Why did they actually choose to waste time out of their day to make a video out of this? Because it takes time to make a video, to record it, to edit, to upload it. And the fact that they wasted time doing it and they all said the same thing and again had nothing to say other than give up, it's not a coincidence.
And the fact that they all said some variation of gaming has been going digital for ages. This is obviously the way it was all going to go. Like, they literally effectively made the same video with three different flavors of shill.
Of course. Of course they did. And of course they're going to say that. And of course Sony wants us to believe that this is a losing battle.
By the way, apparently BTX is another series by the creator of Saint Seiya.
I did not know that. Thank you for that.
Because it hasn't ended. Even the analysts whose own data these three creators are borrowing from are far more careful about separating here is what the data shows from, and therefore nothing can be done about it. That second leap isn't data, that's an opinion delivered with the confidence of fact by three people whose own histories give them every reason to want you to accept it quietly. I mean, none of these three are actual villains, and none of them are lying.
I completely disagree. I think all three are villains. I just don't think they're the big boss. Like Jason Schreier, he is the first boss you play in a fight in a video game, right? He is the first boss you fight in a video game. Alannah Pearce, she's a mini boss. She ain't even a regular boss. She is a fucking mini boss that is optional that you farm for the extra XP. David Jaffe, he's like a mid-game boss because, like, his history with the gaming industry is important, and the way he shills for Sony is important, and the fact that he trains his kid is important. But, like, obviously the big bad evil guy, the BBEG, Sony, Nintendo. I used to say Microsoft, but it was like Asha might actually be coming in and changing shit up. So it'll remain to be seen. Funnily enough, Asha might be the person that like starts off in the game as a villain, but you recruit them to the party, they switch sides. She might be the fucking Zuko of video games if you're an Avatar fan, which would be fucking hilarious. Yeah, Jason is Glass Joe from Punch-Out. Exactly. These are all villains. Then I have the Alex Jones video game. I have not played it yet, but I do have it.
To you outright, but all three of them this week chose to lecture their audiences into accepting giving up. rather than informing them fully and letting them decide for themselves. I don't think that's an accident, and I don't think it's harmless either. Hence why I chose to talk about them today. Look, just a reminder, this not over is nowhere near over. Physical media only dies when consumers stop wanting it, and millions of us have made it abundantly clear that we're not ready to surrender ownership, resale, lending, and preservation simply because PlayStation would prefer a more profitable arrangement. And should PlayStation...
You want to know what would be more profitable for PlayStation, babe?
For them to walk this back and say, you know what, we heard you.
Not even that. Not even that.
What would be more profitable?
Make games. First of all, make good games, but just make games.
That's
Can ultimately decide that customers like us are no longer worth serving, then somebody else inevitably will. There will always be a company willing to take the money Sony has chosen to leave on the table. But until that happens, we cannot allow them to mistake silence for acceptance. We need to keep applying pressure week after week, video after video, comment after comment, until Sony either listens or makes it unmistakably clear that it no longer wants our business. It is only over when we decide it's over, not when 3 people with a genuine foot inside the industry tell us that the battle has already been lost.
Based.
Don't forget, you can get the double Helix Strider game for
Excellent
just
video.
one.
I'm not going to let her second ad read play out. I gave her first ad read. That's good enough, but excellent video. If you guys don't follow Lady Decade, make sure to. She is absolutely fucking incredible. I love her videos. Dude, and her second channel, Lady Arcade, is super good. It is not culture war oriented whatsoever. It's just her going over like retro gaming consoles and stuff. She's awesome.
Nice.
All in all, I do have one issue with this. It wasn't really addressed in the video. I am not part of this Sony boycott. I don't, for me personally, it doesn't make sense to boycott Sony. Do you know why that is, babe?
It's not going to do anything.
Wrong. No, I think boycotting Sony will do a whole lot. I haven't
Not
bought
for a week.
Sony since the PS4. I've been boycotting Sony the entire life cycle of the fucking PS5. I'm just going to keep doing what I was already doing, which is not buy Sony shit.
Well, I mean, like, the thing about it is, like, the boycott that is going around, that is, they're saying, like, boycott Sony for 1 week. So, like, that's why I was like, okay, well, like, 1 week, what's it going to do? Like, like, cancel your membership to Sony. Walk away from Sony.
Agreed.
That's what I think people should do.
I was being facetious when I said I'm not part of the boycott. I legitimately have not bought anything Sony since the PS4. I haven't even bought any like Sony games that are on Steam.
The last thing I bought from Sony was this.
A fucking controller.
A fucking controller.
What do you do with that controller, by the way, for the people that don't know?
And then I switched for this.
I was gonna say, until you got the Steam controller, you used the Sony controller to play on your PC, to play your Steam game.
Exactly. That's exactly it. So I basically just had to buy new controllers because of the drifting, because of how much I used it. Like, I wore out the little joystick things. So I had to buy new controllers. So this is the last thing I bought from Sony. I have not bought anything from Sony for years other than replacement controllers.
And Rudy is not wrong. You know, Sony is huge. It's not just PlayStation. That is obviously true. When we say Sony, we're colloquially
saying PlayStation.
Because like when it comes to like cameras, for example, when it comes to Sony is the best in the market when it comes to cameras. Sony be releasing these $1,600 cameras, they're worth every penny because they're good fucking cameras if you're into that sort of thing, because they make a good quality product. But at the end of the day, like, we're using Sony colloquially as PlayStation, which is effectively like there's a subsidiary division. It's rough driving brands you support your whole life. Sony, Levi's, Nike, Marvel. It fucking sucks. Gotta be done though. And for somebody who maybe feels that way, I've never really had an issue with it because there's only 2 things in the world I'm brand loyal to. I say 2 and I'm holding up 3 fingers, but whatever. Thumb's not a finger. Technicality. There's only 2 brands in the world I'm actually brand loyal to. Cheetos, because off-brand Cheetos taste like shit, and name brand soda, whether it be Coke, Dr. Pepper, Pepsi, no matter what, they're all better than the fucking dollar store or great value brand or whatever. And that's it. And so I've never really had this concept of brand loyalty. I've definitely had IP loyalty, and that's gone on too long. I had an IP loyalty to Resident Evil for far longer than I ever should have. But even Resident Evil 9, I was like, nah, I'm just not gonna fucking buy it. I'm not gonna buy Resident Evil 9. Now, to be fair, Resident Evil 9 was gifted to me, so I did play it and review it.
Yeah.
But since my review, I
That's
haven't
it.
touched it. I have no reason to. I didn't like the game. I
What
played
if-
it. I put my review out. My review did some pretty good fucking numbers. And I wouldn't have even done it. I was not gonna spend my own money on it.